everyone. Thank you all for joining. It's time for another exciting lightning talk. I'm Parag Katkar, your host for tonight. I'm the Senior Director of Enterprise Solutions at Enrhythm, and we have got a lot of exciting content lined up for you in upcoming weeks. Our lighting talks are hosted every Thursday at 5:15 p.m. Eastern Time. And each week, one of our practice area consultants speaks on the latest and greatest technology trends in the industry that will keep you learning and growing in your career. And this week, Sid So, who is an experienced engineering lead with us, is going to give an overview of micro frontends, which is a recent trend in industry for breaking up front-end monoliths into many smaller and manageable pieces. And I'm looking forward to hear how this architecture can increase the effectiveness and efficacy of teams working together on front-end code. So without further ado, let's get it started, Sid.
Thank you, Parag. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my lightning talk on micro frontend. So in order to understand micro frontend, I thought it would be a good idea to review the concept of monolith and microservice first. So first, let's define monolith. A monolithic application is built upon a single code base. Its biggest benefit is that it can be simple to start with and can be the ideal size for small teams to manage. One of its biggest drawbacks is that it can very easily lead to tight coupling, which is when there is a high dependency on other parts of the code. So tight coupling can mean that a change in one module can force a ripple effect of changes in other modules. It can be difficult for independent scaling when the application evolves. Modules can be harder to test or reuse because dependent modules must also be included. And lastly, whole application must be deployed, whether the change was big or small. So then microservice was introduced. And there are basically two key properties of a microservice. The first is that it involves breaking the monolithic application into smaller units that are organized according to business units or technological capabilities. Second property is that microservice is independent of each other and can be developed, scaled, and deployed as needed. So if a shopping cart API has some changes that are ready to go, they don't need to wait for the login API to be ready as well. Each microservice can be deployed without affecting the other. So this is halftime. Questions, anyone? Silence is good. Okay, so now we get to the micro front end. So kind of like the microservice, this also has two key properties to micro front ends. Just like microservice, the monolith front end is broken into smaller units. And then the second thing is that, again, there's no dependencies between the units. So that means that there's no sharing of state via Redux. So if, so between two different applications, two micro front ends, there will not be sharing of Redux. In order to share state, instead, you can make API calls to save data and get data. Or you can use the browser storage to save data. The benefit of micro front end is that you can have multiple teams working on the small units at the same time in isolation. The teams working on the product page doesn't need to know about the work done on the login page. You can have independence. Each micro front end can be built out independently and can choose their own framework. This means that the login page can be done in React, the account page can be done in Angular, and the shopping cart page in Vue. While you can do this, it would not necessarily be recommended to do so. But why would you choose to do so? Well, maybe you want to migrate some website from React to Angular or from AngularJS to Angular. You can slice the site in piecemeal and have the new stuff in its own or several micro frontends while being referenced in the original container site. The site would have the latest and greatest underneath, and no user would be the wiser. And lastly, big benefit is that it's decoupled. So no code dependency allows each team to develop and deploy / release at will. Now, some of the micro frontend drawbacks is that, excuse me, it does require resources. So micro frontends are useful for projects that have teams of teams, but can be cumbersome for a single small team. Number two is that you can have duplicated code. So not sharing a single code base can lead to a lot of code duplication. And third is that it can be costly in terms of time to dynamically or lazily load micro frontends at runtime, which basically means that your micro frontends can be subjected to the same latency problems that come with server uptime, or that comes with when server uptime or availability is iffy. This is a high-level view of my demo application. So this demo application is composed of 4 different micro front-end units. The first is the container, which is going to act as the host. And this is built in React, and it's going to be hosted at port 8080. And then my application will also have 3 remote micro frontends. So we'll have a marketing app, which is in charge of the home page and the pricing page. An Auth app, which is consists of the sign in, sign out, sign up page, listening on port 8082. And then we have a dashboard, which is some stats and charts page hosted on port 8083. And it's created in Vue. Why is it created in Vue? Just because we can. So we'll come back to this slide in a second. So the key of this all is the module federation plugin, and which is in Webpack. So for those of you who don't know what Webpack is, it's basically a bundler for your code, for your JavaScript code. It bundles all your code together and it packages it nicely for consumption. So what this module federation plugin does is that it allows a build to provide or consume modules with other independent builds at runtime. What that basically means is that these 3 remotes will bundle their micro frontends. So they'll bundle their files together, their JavaScript, and they'll provide it to the host. The host container will consume the 3 remotes, and that's how it will be able to gain access to the micro frontends, smaller remotes. Just a little bit of code here. So within Webpack, there are configurations. So when you do a new module federation plugin here, you give it a name, you pass in a configuration object, and you'll have a name, marketing, you'll specify the file name, which is remote entry.js. And again, this is the bundled JavaScript file that is created by Webpack of your application. So our marketing application right here, this will be bundled, and it will be bundled into a file called remote entry.js. Over here, we have exposes. So within our marketing app, we have a source bootstrap file, which is basically specifies the app container of the project. And for any React project, there's always the app container, which is your base level of the project. It contains all the all the virtual DOMs, all the React stuff for your project. And that will be available to the host in a folder called marketing app. So this is going to be just an alias, which the host can use. And we'll look at this later. And then shared, we'll look at it later as well. It's basically a way to specify which modules you are using, what node modules you are using that may be the same across the board. So this is for remote apps. So that'll, oops. All right, so that'll be for the marketing app, for Auth app and dashboard. Now in the host app, our container, we'll have a similar configuration, and we'll put in the name container, and we'll specify the list of remotes. So we'll have the module federation name. So this will be the Micro Frontend name that we specified here, which is marketing. It'll be the URL where it's being hosted at. And then we'll have the file name there, remote entry.js, which is what we specified here as file name, remote entry.js. And so we have one for marketing, auth, and dashboard. And also down here we have shared, which we are sharing the dependencies of our package JSON. Any questions so far? Okay, so now we get to the demo part. So over here, I have 4 different columns. Each one is my module, my Micro Frontend. So I'm going to start up the auth project, start up container, start up dashboard, and start up the marketing. Okay, looks good. So now I can go to the first one is marketing on localhost 8081. And so this is a basic, just a React project. It has 2 pages. One is the home page here, and the other one is when you click on pricing, the pricing page. So these are just basically 2 pages that are viewable via the React router. So React router allows me to go from one page to the next. Next project is the auth. So this auth project is basically the sign-in form. So sign in or login. Just one thing here is that you can either sign in or sign up. And then lastly, we have our view application here, which is our dashboard page. And this is a page that shows some statistics of users and then some charts at the end here. So it's basic stuff here. So these are all 3 different applications that are hosted on their respective ports. And then we have our container app. And our container app basically molds it all together. And so it has the header component, which will show this header here, the login screen, the login button, the app link here, and then it will show the contents of the home page here. So again, I can click on pricing, and it'll take me to the pricing page. This is reflected in the URL. I can go to login, and as you know, we've now switched to the auth application, and I can sign in, sign up. So if I sign in, I am now taken to the dashboard. And the dashboard, as you know, is now the third application, the view application. And now if I can log out, I can go back and I'm back at the home page again. So as you can see, it looks seamless. You can't even tell that it's actually 3 different applications running at the same time, or 4 different applications running at the same time. So now I just want to talk. Does anyone have any questions so far?
Yeah, actually, I have a quick question.
Sure.
As far as routing, I couldn't really think about how it's all coming together. So each application can really handle its own routing, and then if there's conflicts only, there's problems. Did you run into that?
Good question. Good question there. So, like you can see here, marketing has 2 pages: home page and pricing page. Authentication has sign in, sign out, sign up, and dashboard just has 1 page. But in terms of routing, basic strategy is that the container will use a browser history, browser history, and then the remotes will use a memory router. And you would have to do, basically within React Router, there's a history object. That history object can be extracted out. So when you extract it out, you can then manipulate it. So if inside the marketing app, you're saying like, well, now I'm going to the pricing page. In the memory router, you would specify I'm going to the pricing page, but in the history object, you would also update it so that it's reflective of that in the URL.
Oh, okay. So it's like just syncing the history API with React Router and vice versa.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Thanks.
Yeah. That actually was one of the big gotchas of the projects. Like to figure out here's a problem with routing. How do you solve this thing? So this was actually covered in the Udemy course that I was like glancing at when I did this.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, thank you.
Sure. Next question.
Hey, Sid, yes, me. Hey, so the way you got this picture right now, everything is contained within a single container, right? So is all of the micro front ends for a particular routing group within a single container, and how does that affect scaling if we have multiple containers? The question makes sense?
Well, would it affect scaling?
Yeah, how would it affect scaling if we have multiple containers now? Good question.
Well, I mean, I guess, you can, the container itself is, this is not a Docker container. This is just another project that is consuming the other modules, which is also, this is done in React. So this is just another React application. And,
Okay, okay, I've got you. All right.
So, I hope that understand that.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it does. I think each of your well, actually it doesn't, but I'll do a little research and I'll come back to you in the app dev meeting Monday and ask you a more intelligent question. But yeah, that scaling is one of the things that kind of jumps out at me that could get complicated quick. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I think if I can give a little light on that, Mike, like Sid was saying, we're dealing with just a React app at the top level. So then if you were to scale it, and in terms of having, say, multiple instances of this running, and maybe based on your location or load balancing, et cetera, potentially being able to hit different ones. I mean, you're running into the same. It doesn't change it, I guess, coming down to it, because it will still do the same the different remote modules are just loaded dynamically from the container. But if you have multiple instances, the same thing will happen just in a different instance. So I don't think it will have an impact, if I got your question correctly. But yeah, we can maybe discuss it later.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Anybody else has questions? Okay, so
Sid,
yes.
are you, sorry, is it about this section or are you going to keep going?
I still have some more stuff to cover.
Oh, go for it.
So one thing I wanted to show here is that in the network tab, if I click on refresh here, hopefully you can see this. There's basically 3 remote entry files here. So one for each of the remote app that we had. So one here for marketing, you can see that marketing, one for auth, and one for dashboard. And again, this is all the projects, all the JS files in there has been bundled up nicely into this file. And so I just want to show the glue what ties it all together. I'll make this bigger. So the first thing I wanted to just kind of quickly glance on is back in the Webpack dev configuration file. This is what you saw in the picture before with the module federation plugin. This exposes remote entry and exposes source bootstrap, and it appears as marketing app to the host application. So the host application, which is a container, in here is sorry. Showing up. And this is again what we saw before. So what I wanted to show was that there's this name here. So when it takes the marketing, this refers to the name here of which is in the remote application. Marketing for the module federation here, and I'll take this remote entry.js. It'll be known as marketing path. So when I go into my container and I want to actually use that path, I'll use marketing here / marketing app. And what this is referring to marketing, because I call it marketing here, this part here. And because we expose marketing app here, that's what marketing app is over here. And so you can see this squiggly line, and Golang is basically telling me module is not installed. I do not recognize this. If I were to go to my node modules, it would not be found there. So this is actually looking at the remote entry file, one of these, and it's going in there looking for a function called mount, and then it's doing doing its magic on it. And then as Paul was asking about React Router and stuff, this is some of the magic that it takes to sync up. So whether the parent is navigating to the page, or if the remote is navigating to the page, we just sync up. If they're not the same, we'll just push the next path name, and if it is the same, then don't do anything. You can kind of look at this more later. I can give this to you later. I think that's mostly what I wanted to show. So is that, including the page that by itself doesn't do anything, but you can reference the file and then make use of it, well, what's inside. Any questions?